Alright guys, welcome to this video today. This one is a very much requested topic on this channel, and I'm going to be talking all about shadowboxing. So how to get started in shadowboxing and progress throughout your training. Now, shadowboxing is just an absolutely invaluable tool, and it's something I personally like to use every single time I train. I like to usually do some warm-up rounds in shadowboxing. It just has so many benefits, like improving your technique, you're really burning it into your muscle memory, improves your cardiovascular capacity, helps you with your defense, your footwork, and you're doing all this without having to worry about an opponent striking towards you. So it's a great tool of development that you can then take into the rest of your training. What I've personally observed is that when somebody will see someone shadowboxing, they're obviously just seeing that end result where there's layers of complexity and years of training added on, and they think it's quite a complicated activity, but it's actually really simple, and it's something that you can utilize at any level of your training, from a beginner up to obviously an elite level. So in this video, what I'm going to aim to do is take it down to its absolute foundational level, and then we're going to build up everything else on top of there so that you can start to incorporate this into your training routines. Now, another great thing about shadowboxing is that it's just so versatile. You know, you can do it anywhere, you don't need any equipment obviously, and it's very, very low stress on the body. So I like to always warm up with some rounds, as I mentioned earlier, but sometimes if I'm relatively fatigued, I might just do some shadowboxing at a sort of low to mid-level intensity as a kind of active rest day. So I'm always hammering home on this channel the philosophy of sort of getting that volume of repetitions of your technique in order to really develop it and build that skill, and this is a great way to do that. So what I'd recommend that you start with is just adopting your very basic fighting stance. There's obviously many different stances in martial arts training, so just pick the one that you're most familiar with to start with, okay? And this is always how I begin my sessions. I'm very, very relaxed. There's zero tension in the body, and I'm going to work up and build that flow in, okay? So what I do from here is I'm just moving around nice and light on my feet, and I just perform some incredibly basic footwork patterns, okay? So moving from here, stepping out, just getting into that flow and how it should feel, okay? And as I go and build the intensity throughout the session, throughout that round rather, I will start to make it a little bit quicker. So instead of just a stilted sort of hop like this, I'll bounce a little bit more, moving around, and I might hop in like this, okay? So over to this direction and whatever you want. So what I'll do now is I'll show a clip, a B-roll clip of me doing some of this to see how it would look in action. So what I like to do next is, after warming up in that stance, I like to just add some very slow and controlled movements of my techniques, okay? From here, just moving very slow, and it's kind of adding on to what I was doing earlier in that stance. So I'll be performing my movements, moving out like this, and just performing those basic techniques. So I'll do this even if I feel particularly energetic. I won't go into intensity straight away, even if I feel I have the capability to do that. And the reason for that is I've noticed that when I warm up really slow like this, it activates the body in the right way. So then when you start to add intensity and do the next part of your session, everything just flows much more easily, and your body you feel much more in tune with your body. And you want to focus on maintaining proper form and technique. So this allows you to build that muscle memory for correct movement. And what I like to start with on my first rounds are jabs, crosses and hooks, and low to mid-level round kicks and front kicks, which I will go higher as we progress and add more techniques like elbows and things like that. And I just like to go through a round of these first as I begin to move around, and then as I go quickly and more intensely, I'll add more techniques. And I like to begin with just executing some of these basic combos to start with, and then I'll add things like head movement and more complicated footwork after that. But to start with, it's just good to get into that flow by doing some basic combinations. With these, remember to move with fluidity and fully extend your strikes, but don't overextend and fall off balance. You also want to remember to breathe, so focus upon maintaining a kind of steady breathing pattern throughout the session. You want to exhale each time you throw a strike to improve your power, and it also maintains control over your breathing and makes it so that you're not gassing out too quickly. A few of the suggestions that I like to do are the following. Now, after you're more familiar with throwing some of those basic combos and you feel a little bit more in tune with your body and you're warmed up, then you want to start to visualize an imaginary opponent throwing strikes towards you. So this obviously makes it more interactive and forces you to move out the way and practice your defensive skills. So same thing again, just in my stance from here. Obviously you've got your slips either way, your rolls under, you can lean back, you can cover up like this. I might jab cross, slip one side and cross, or something like this, you know, like coming off this way and striking, and just start adding that into some of your techniques. And don't worry about going too crazy with this to start. Just pick a few combos and defensive movements that you want to practice and repeat those. Have fun with it and be careful not to get into over-analysis, and if you do that, you end up becoming quite mechanical and just repeating what are sort of choreographed combinations. So I mentioned before that shadowboxing obviously has a lot of utility and different benefits from it. So as well as just practicing that defense and movement, you just generally getting more in tune with your body. So with a lot of these things, it's never just the actual thing you're practicing. There's many other benefits that come from it, so don't worry about throwing some really unconventional combos as well that you would never really utilize, because it's just going to get you far more used to moving your body in different ways, which will then feed into the rest of your training. So now you've got all of those sort of foundational elements taken care of, then you can actually begin to use this in your training sessions. So we've covered our footwork, obviously our basic strikes and combinations, and our defensive maneuvers. And the way I'd recommend doing this is using rounds. So you can do 3-minute rounds with a 1-minute break in, and I would build intensity as I go, as I've already mentioned. So the first round that I do is literally super slow and super basic like this, still with fluidity, that's slow with flow, so it's not stilted and all kind of robotic, right? And then I will build in. So the first round might just look like this. The second round, what I'll do is I'll go a little bit quicker. I'm still very relaxed and I'm not adding a load of power into my techniques. And then as I build up, I'll start to kind of relax more, add more intensity in like that, okay? And depending on how many you're doing, obviously, don't burn yourself out. Like, build it up slowly. If you're doing just a shadowboxing workout, then you're going to want to take it much more slowly. But if you're just using it as a warm-up, I like to do this before I do some other training, and that's kind of the pace that I will go when I do that. Remember, guys, shadowboxing just has incredible versatility, and it can be used and incorporated into many different aspects of your training. So once you've grasped the basics, you can start to make it more of a cardio workout by going a bit more intense and for longer rounds and things like that, which is obviously then going to feed into other elements of your training. Don't overthink the process and just start simple and then build from there. And remember, obviously, you're going to have to dedicate some time to this. It's that consistency that matters. So even if you're just doing a little bit each day, you're going to see that improvement over time, which is much more important than just short, intense bursts every now and then. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, guys.